Hi, my name is Claire and I'm the mother of 3 teenagers with FASD.
I'm Jessica, a PhD researcher specialising in educational interventions for children with FASD.
And together we are the hosts of Spotlight on FASD, the UK's first podcast dedicated to shining a spotlight on fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
FASD is a condition caused by prenatal alcohol exposure that affects hundreds of thousands of children across the UK.
And we're here to bring these conversations out of the shadows and make sure that no one living with FASD feels alone.
Hi everyone and welcome to Spotlight on FASD. We are doing a little bit of a bonus conversation that is being added to a big episode that has been previously recorded with 2 young people. But we now have the opportunity to speak with Jacob. Jacob was involved in the creation of the UK FASD Manifesto, so we didn't want to miss out on getting his voice on here. So Jacob has joined me today. So hi, Jacob.
Hi, it's lovely to meet you, Jessica. Honestly, it's an honor to be on here. Thank you very much, and I'm hoping just today to voice my thoughts on FASD.
Brilliant, and that's exactly what we want. That's we want to use this platform for. So the FASD Manifesto. What were your initial thoughts? Did you get an email and think?
I did,
okay.
Yeah. So what happened was Sandy, I'm assuming you know her. She's a lovely person. We started doing these meetings maybe 2 years ago, where my parents would go along to these meetings with everyone, and they were sort of parents of people who have children with FASD. And from there, Sandy decided that people with FASD sort of needed that extra hand, that help. And from there, we got that manifesto going, and I was luckily involved, and they sent through a draft and emails. And in the beginning, I was really excited because it really did show the care and the love towards people with FASD. Like, you can I don't really know how to talk about it very well because it's a very complex matter, but I'm very glad that in the beginning, the manifesto, it was, I loved the idea of it, and it was very simplistic. It definitely, the poster, it definitely oh my gosh, sorry, I'm so nervous. It definitely what's the word, looks friendly, inviting towards like maybe a younger nature, which I think is really what we're trying to like achieve here, is like make sure that everyone gets heard, and then there's no one left out, I suppose.
So when you had that initial opportunity to give input to the manifesto, that felt to you like, okay, wow, we're being given a voice, which was the intention, which is, that's absolutely fantastic that came through. And the posters all look fantastic, don't they? They're we're trying to make sure that they're dotted around everywhere. Have you handed any of them out anywhere?
I haven't been able to at the moment because unfortunately I've busted my leg. I'm in a sort of a cast at the moment, but I am, it's all right. I am, whenever I can, I'm always telling people about it, and I love, when I was working, I would always be like, oh yeah, I went to the FASD meeting the other week, and I would tell them all about it, and they'd all be like, oh wow, that sounds fantastic, like, sounds lovely. And it makes me happy when other people also listen and they want to get involved as well. So it's lovely to share and have people understand and sort of give their opinions as well.
So this manifesto has given you that opportunity and to start those conversations and have people ask questions and things.
Sorry, I think there's a little bit of a Wi-Fi problem, but that's all right. No problem. Yeah, it definitely gave me that confidence boost to be able to open up more And it definitely gave me an opportunity to talk more as well, because before I didn't really see it as something good. It was, to me, it was kind of a disadvantage, a disability, but now I more see it as something where it's a gift, because I don't feel burdened by it at all. I don't feel like it's changed my life in a like dramatic bad way. I think it's actually enabled me to sort of do more than maybe other people without this disability, of course.
That's fantastic. So have you got anything to share? Like, what sort of things do you think you've achieved because of it?
Oh, I definitely think that I'm a more caring person.
Hmm.
Like, it's with my FASD. I don't know if that's during my because of my parents like upbringing, but I definitely think I'm more emotional than maybe the average person, and I definitely realized that when I was younger, because I would have these outbursts and like, I had no idea what was going on. And but as I got older, the outbursts started to disappear, and I started to care more. I could open up more, and my feelings were sort of there, and it enabled me to care a lot for my friends. And I've built incredible friendships, and I've built almost an incredible life just because I'm just that little bit. I'm friendly. I love talking to people. I love opening up. It's great. Like it's nice to have that little bit of extra emotion there. What else?
Definitely.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and do you talk about FASD a lot? Do you feel like that has put you in a position to sort of educate others and
Mm.
speak to people who
Yeah, I
might
would
not
definitely.
have heard?
Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking over the interview. I definitely agree. Yeah, it's lovely because a lot of people, they know about autism, obviously, but
Hmm.
an underlying root of autism, like the main cause, is usually FASD, or
Hmm.
fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And so anyone who has autism, they obviously they know what that is, but they don't, because it's an underlying issue. Not a lot of people talk about FASD. It's not very well known. So when I do bring it up, people are like, "Oh, what's this? What does it mean?" And I can then I'm able to explain, and they go, "Oh, so that's that, and that's that," and it really helps me, especially when I open up to other people about my FASD. It helps me feel more comfortable around them afterwards.
Hmm.
Like I don't feel like I'm hiding anything, or I don't feel like I'm burdened, like I have to act differently, and it's very nice. I'm fortunate. A lot of the people that I've been around have been very supporting and caring towards my problems. But yeah,
Right.
it's definitely great.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Do you find
Mm.
was that the case when you went through school? Because I know for a lot of people, and that's
Ooh.
something yeah, that's something we spoke a lot about when we spoke with Georgia and Bailey, which this
Mm.
conversation will be sitting alongside. We did talk about school and the challenges and how this manifesto and the presence of this manifesto within
Mm.
a school setting could change that.
Yeah, it could change it dramatically, and for the better, obviously.
Mhm.
I'm actually so excited because for me, school was one of the biggest things that
Yeah.
I've had to go through. I changed schools. I so my primary school was all right, because I feel like most primary schools are okay, but I was lucky because I had a primary school right down the road, and my parents were always there, and I could, like, if I felt bad, they'd come and see me, and I had a lot of good friends. But when it came to secondary school, that was the biggest difference. And I was, as I said, I was very emotional. I didn't know why, and I would stutter a lot. I'm stuttering now as well, but I got bullied for that. And for me, I felt like I was being bullied for like something that I couldn't help. And it really was one of the hardest times of my life. And I changed school. I went to a private school in Welling with a very few people, very few students, and I started to flourish there a little bit more. I started to enjoy myself. But overall, the difficulties of school have been very extreme and very life changing on me. Um, and I hope that when this manifesto kicks in properly and people start to actually like look at it, and the awareness starts to spread more, it may actually be nicer for children who have my disability and problem, and they might actually be able to go to school without worrying about this, without getting bullied, and it would be lovely because I'm not afraid to talk about this. I did have depression during school, and of course it's not fun. Uh, and I believe that no kid should suffer through that, even if they, yeah, even if they may have a problem, like they may have autism or FASD, or they may not. I still think the bullying and all of that is horrible in any case. But I hope that when this, as I said, when this manifesto kicks in properly and all this awareness is kicked in, that we can sort of change the future of schools for the better, just indefinitely.
Yeah, yes, I really hope. Something that we were talking about was training and getting FASD training really embedded into schools and having teachers really understand what FASD is like in terms of learning, but in terms of the social aspect as well. As you mentioned, like the bullying, and that comes up quite often, and just having a wider understanding within society, really, because we don't know how many people are affected by FASD, and it's likely to be a much bigger number than the estimates.
Yeah, definitely. I remember talking to Sandy the other day. She's the leader of the little group we have, and she said that the amount of people with autism is probably less than the amount of people that have FASD. Like if you put them in two different categories and just autism or FASD and autism, there's more people that may have FASD than autism than just autism. And that for me was almost like that was the biggest shock, because I know that autism is a huge thing. Many of my friends have autism.
Yeah.
And for me to then go to hear, oh, FASD actually may be more prominent than autism, it went, wow. And that makes me feel like I'm not as alone as I first thought, which is it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you found like a community through those groups that you've met other people and other parents? And
Yeah, I've met a lot of kids, not many my age, many younger, but it's been so nice to see them, because I've watched two of them grow up, and they used to be quite young, but now I've seen them get older, and it's nice because they've they've gone about their life with a lot of challenges, but they still manage to smile and they still manage to have fun. And whenever I see them, I sometimes I even text them, and whenever I do, they always seem to be in a good mood. And it's phenomenal for me to think that, because what I like to think is we have a lot of resolve. People with FASD, we have a lot of resolve because we go through a lot of problems, but as we grow up, we get used to these problems, which isn't great, but it happens, and we shrug it off, we laugh and we smile, and eventually it gets to the point where we just are happy. We can just smile about it and nothing really bothers us anymore. At least that's how I feel, for me personally.
Yeah, and that's I imagine you're quite an inspiration to those younger kids then, and the young people, you say, if you've met them, and it's sort of like, okay, well, let's look at what Jacob's doing, and Jacob's happy, and he's sort of accepted that these are the challenges, but we work around them, and it doesn't have to stop you doing what you want to do. And
yeah, I agree. Definitely. Yeah, you shouldn't let FASD stop you from doing what you want to do. I mean, yeah, it's been harder for me to say get a job and work, but I've still enjoyed it. I've still found enjoyment, and in fact, if my leg wasn't as buggered as it is, I would be out. I would be exploring the world, traveling, and to me, that's just phenomenal. Because 2 years ago, I would never have thought this. I was just thinking there was so much pressure from school and so much stress, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm going to fail school and I'm going to have to go back. But in reality, now I just feel a lot more free and a lot more happy, and it is so beautiful. It's so relieving.
That's me. Oh, if Claire would be crying right now if Claire was here, if she heard you say. So okay, challenges with the leg cast thing aside, would you be traveling? Is that the dream?
Yeah,
to
that
go?
is the dream.
Yeah.
I have a partner at the moment, and she wants to go traveling in the future. And next year we want to go to places like South Africa. We want to go to Greece. She wants to go to Italy. Oh, so many places she wants to go, and I'm. It's sort of infectious even. I've got the traveling bug, and I'm like, yes, let's go, let's have fun, let's go in the sun, enjoy ourselves. And it's I don't even know how to explain it. It is honestly so relieving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's huge. The organization and the logistics, the planning, the foreign countries, the differences in food. Like, there's so much to that I imagine, like 5 years ago.
Oh, I would never have thought that. Yeah, you're definitely correct. Yeah. 5 years ago, I was like, nope, stay in the country. I hate all food. Give me the same thing every day. And it was very, I don't want to leave the house. I want to stay in the country. Like, it was good when we went away, but I got very homesick. And I now realize that is a part of my FASD and part of my autism. I just thought I was weird, but it's not. And I like it. I like to know now that I don't feel bad leaving now. I feel like I can go places and I can have fun, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, and then come back when you're ready.
Exactly. Yeah.
What changed?
School.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like school is going to be a separate segment when I'm going to just talk about it like fully. I've mentioned it here and there, but when I get onto it, it's going to be a huge thing because every single year of school is a different year that I had to struggle and I had to deal with. But as soon as I left my sixth form and I started working, I definitely noticed a change in my mood. And I definitely noticed a change in the amount of stress in the environment and how much I was dealing with.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. And that's the manifesto, isn't it? That's why we need the manifesto everywhere, and it's just embedded into absolutely everything, isn't it? Because that environment that you're describing seems to be a mirror image for everybody who we've spoken to.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's not weird. It's interesting to think that so many things co-align with people with FASD. And every time as I say, I go to these meetings, we hear from other parents, and because I have FASD, I can go, oh, that sounds like me. Oh, that sounds like something I've done. Oh, I know that. Yeah, that sounds right. And I'm learning more and more all the time. That's something I would definitely say that is very important. Even if you know about FASD and you think like you've met some people, you may have looked it up, you never know all of the sort of the aspects of FASD until you've met people and you've sat down with them, you spent time with them. And even then, there's so many different people out there, you can never truly know the full range of FASD.
Yeah, that's it. There's just so many variables to it, and so many different presentations. And it is, Claire refers to herself as an accidental expert because she's living it and she's learned through mistake with her 3 kids. And that's the sort of thing that, there's no textbook, there's no guide, there's no how to with anything with FASD. But one thread that does go through every conversation is challenges with school. But I do think that the manifesto and the importance of the manifesto and the reason why it's had this global reach is because it's the first time that anything has ever given voice to the people living it. And I know there's groups in Canada who always say nothing. What is it they say? Nothing for us without us. Is that what
Wow.
Which basically what they're saying is, if you're a scientist or a researcher, or you're doing all this work in FASD, include us, because the books that you're looking at, the science, the data, will never tell you what we can tell you.
Exactly, I agree. I used to have a friend, and his mum apparently said she was an expert on FASD because she did a course on it, and she told my parents what apparently I should be doing. And I looked at my parents when they were telling me this, and I went, that is the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
You've done one course on FASD and now you think you're an expert. That's like saying you've driven a car once and now you can do Formula One. To me, it's insulting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like it. I don't like when people say, I know everything about FASD, even though I've never lived the life. I understand that, yeah, you can know a lot about it, but you can't, as you said, you can't know as much as people who have lived through it or have had children who have lived through it.
Exactly. And I think even the parents that I've come across anyway, the parents that I'm friends with and connected with, I think they would be very quick to say as well that they're not the experts, but they're as close as
you can be. Yeah.
you can be without living it, because but then there is that challenge of giving the voice and giving the opportunity for children, young people living with FASD to say, this is what it's like for me, and bringing all that together. But one thing that always comes up is school.
Of course. I am more than ready to talk about it. I've been dodging the subject for too long because it's a very sensitive thing. But let's start from the beginning of year 7. I entered school and I'd left everybody from my primary school, which was the first big thing. No one went to the same school as me.
Was that by choice?
That was by choice.
Okay.
There is
clean break.
there is a school next to me called Broxbourne Senior, which everyone went because I went to Broxbourne Primary. But I found this class size is too big. I had a very big fear of lots of people. I was socially anxious. And so when we went there and they said, oh, there's about, I can't remember, it's like 10,000, I think. And I was like, no, yeah, it's a very big school. And then we looked around a lot of the schools around my area, and they're all big, prestigious schools, and they all demand high respect from like a lot of children. And of course, like in year 5 to 6, we started to notice my tendencies with school when I was struggling a little bit more. So my parents really started to focus on that aspect of looking to my future and looking for that extra support I would need when I was doing my GCSEs and that. And I feel so grateful because I had no idea how hard my GCSEs were going to be when I started year 7.
Yeah.
So my parents, I would say all parents out there with FASD children, you do so much more than you could ever believe. You are the backbone of every FASD child. So thank you. But yes, my parents, they went to all these open evenings. They always looked for the people who would support the children with slightly more problems or disabilities. And at these other schools, the people wouldn't show up to the open evenings. So we started to look at smaller schools. We went to a school where there were about 600 students 600 students total, I think it was. And I was like, that is the school for me. That is what I want. And so we went there, and they had the best, one of the best, how do I say, they had a really nice, what's the word? Learning support center. I was trying to remember the word. They had a lovely learning support center, and the people in the school were really lovely as well. But unfortunately, when I started year 7, it was all right. I started to click a little bit. I found a few friends, but of course I was socially awkward. There weren't a lot of people that I knew. And the head teacher, which was the main reason why we went there, because he was a lovely guy. I even met him on the open evening, and I was like, yes, this guy is so lovely. He got a promotion, which means he was leaving the school, and a new head teacher came in, and he started accepting all these like rogue students that had been expelled from other schools, and it made the school that I was in kind of it was a sort of a school for delinquents, I would say. And with that came a lot of bullying. And since I was at quite okay, I'll admit I was a nerd. I loved like all these like D&D and like video games, and like I loved music. And so I would hang around with the very like niche markets. I wasn't a footballer. I didn't go out and play football with all the boys. I was like, that's music, video games. So we were usually picked on by, of course, the footballers, which I think is very mean, because that's just being stereotypical. Like, what's wrong with being a gamer? Why don't what can I not like football? I apologize. And then as I went on to year 9, it got very, very bad. And my parents were like, okay, we've seen the bullying, we've seen what it's done. You're putting on extreme weight. We don't like this. It's like, it's not your fault. So we went to a few like therapies sessions, and we had some talks about it, and we decided to move schools. This was about halfway through year 9, and I've forgotten most of my first school because it was so, I don't want to use the word traumatizing, but it really was.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started my second year in school, when I started my second school in halfway through year 9, I remember the first thing that happened to me was I was very vulnerable. I was very scared. And so a lot of people, but everyone there was nice. And I was creeped out by it, because if someone was nice to you in a public school, either they want something or they're going to shove you in a locker. And that was my experience. So I was very terrified of nice people.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, throughout the years of my school, I met Miss Dutton, who was a lovely support teacher. I would say she probably kept me sane throughout most of my school years, year 9, 10, and 11. I had, which I would say is probably the one reason why I probably stayed at that school for as long as I did, is one teacher called Mr. Delau. I don't know if I'll ever see him again, but he was a great guy, and he was my school father figure, because I went through a lot of troubles in year 10 and 11 with medication, because I had depression and I went on different medication, and I was a little bit of a troublemaker. But he would always get me involved in class, and he would always, what I think was the best thing is, if he saw you like sort of dozing off, or if you weren't paying attention, he would go, Jacob is going to the store to buy 50 donuts. And he would say your name really loudly, and then the rest of the sentence. And it would sound like he's shouting at you, but he's just using your name as an example. And you would look up and you would go, okay, I'm not in trouble. And I realized, because I used to go to his extra classes in sixth form, I realized that this was a teaching method that he's been doing. Because I would show up to like year 7 business lessons or year 9 business lessons, and I realized that is one of the smartest ways to teach ever. And not only that, I had a few bad days in school. I remember I had a day when one of my friends was gravely injured, and she had to go to the hospital, and I was very worried about her and everything, and I broke down in school, and it was during my business class, and he was teaching me, and he said, do you want to come outside? There's an office like literally across the hall. And he sat me down, and we had a conversation for about 30 minutes. He got one of the other business teachers in the class, and they were teaching him. We had a conversation. He was like, are you okay? What's wrong? Do you want to talk about it? And at first I was like, no, I'm fine. And then I started crying, and I started opening up, and he was like, yeah, this is fine. If you want to stay here for the rest of the lesson, I'll go back, I'll start teaching, and you come in when you're finished, or you can just do whatever. Like, I understand it's a very hard time. And to me, the fact that he didn't shout at me, or the fact that he didn't go, "Why are you crying in the middle of my class?" And then when I took it out and I explained to him and he didn't go, "Well, that's not a good enough reason." The fact he genuinely really cared, and he even said, "You don't have to come back to lesson. You can just sit there and just think about it." And I was like, this is the school for me. This is the person I want to be taught by for the rest of my class. I even took business and accounting A level with him because of how great he was. Yeah. And not only that, all the teachers at my school were amazing. And definitely in the second year, although I was struggling with depression and I was struggling with friendships, the amount that I think that if I didn't have, like, my PE teacher, for example, the same day when my friend was in hospital and I had games, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do games. I'm very sad. I'm like, I might go home. I don't know what's going on. I'm very stressed. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to do games. You can obviously, like, I understand. You can just sit there on the side and you can have a conversation with, like, one of the other teachers. And I was like, thank you, sir. Like, thank you so much for understanding. I really appreciate that. And it's the fact that even when you're not an adult, when you're in like year 9, they'll still treat you like a human being and not like a student.
Yeah.
Because I found in a lot of public schools, they'll treat you like a student, like a child.
There's just so many students.
Yeah. So they can't give their individual attention to every single student, which is why I loved those small schools, because you did get that individual attention that you needed. And especially for me, like, as I said, I had a lot of problems. Like, I would break down and I would be very sad. I did do self-harm when I was in school as well, but throughout all of it, I made it through, and I want to thank my teachers for that, and I want to thank my friends. And it's a blessing that I went to that second school, because it was honestly, it changed my life for the better.
Yeah, that's so positive to hear. And it's, you know, it's a shame it took until halfway through year 9 and the struggles that you had at the first school, but like, it's really, really positive and reassuring to hear that there are schools out there. And what I was wondering whilst you were talking there is, do you think that those teachers were the way they were? Did they understand FASD, or were they just empathetic? They were just nice.
I think they were
teachers.
Just compassionate, because my Mr. Lal, he didn't know I had FASD. He didn't know I had autism. He was just a very compassionate teacher.
Right.
However,
that's interesting.
Mrs. Dutton, she was an expert on like FASD. She did like work with FASD, like stuff like that before she joined our school. So she did know a lot about that. So I was very blessed in that manner, because she understood my problems very well. And she was one of the hugest advocates for me. I think she stopped me getting kicked out of the school twice, because she was like, why are you kicking out the school for something like this? It's not his fault. Can you not see there's something going on here? If he's doing this, there's a reason for it. It's not because he's a bad kid. And she's convinced the head teacher, she's convinced the head teacher about a lot of students of why they should stay, because she genuinely understands the problems and the struggles that go through kids at school. She even had 2 kids with mental disabilities, like FASD and autism. So she knew as well how hard it was. So I'm very thankful for that. And I think every school should have a teacher that is well versed in autism and FASD, or at least one, if not more, if it's a big school, because FASD is it's got such a huge impact on you. It's not just school that's like been hard. Like, for example, for you, I'm sure getting out of bed isn't very easy, but it shouldn't take you more than like half an hour, right? For me, it takes an hour to get out of bed. Then I have to go walk myself to the bathroom to go brush my teeth. Then I have to go walk myself to get changed. It's not like I'm doing it. I can just do it. It's like I have to force myself to do these things, because my brain is working I would say a little bit harder than it should do. And it doesn't it doesn't bother me, but it is an inconvenience.
Yeah.
I'm sort of used to it, but it's never going to be as easy as it should be, I would
Yeah.
like to say.
But it does sound like you are making the best of it.
I'm
You have
definitely
said
trying.
that you're happy now. You've got all these dreams of traveling with your partner and work and different things. So yeah, and it sounds like that the manifesto has just like wrapped it all up for you, like, and just put it all
Definitely.
in one place.
Yeah, it's great. It is, honestly, the manifesto is so great. I'm so happy that it's gone out and that it's got the attention that it deserves as well. Definitely. I'm very, very happy about that. And I hope that in the future we can continue to build on this and we
Yeah.
can continue to see hopefully a change.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that's the biggest thing that I'm hoping for, definitely, is a change.
Yeah. And what this is like a really out there question now. Where is one place that you would really love to see that manifesto poster, where you would totally not expect to see it?
Oh, where is one place I would not expect to see it? Do you know what? I wouldn't expect to see it at like a workplace,
Okay.
because I work at Costa, and I don't expect it to be at that kind of workplace where you're only hired as basically a work dog, and you're paid minimum wage, and they don't give a care about you in the world. So for me, I would like, if that manifesto was hanging up on that wall and it said treat us how you want to be treated, basically, that would put the biggest smile on my face, because it really does feel like I can't I do the best I can at work, and my manager knows that, but my area manager, who's her boss, does not know that, and he just thinks I'm a lazy sod, and it really annoys me. Really, really annoys me.
Do you think if you spoke to your manager, you could put one of those posters up, like in a staff area?
We're not allowed to have any posters in that, like, anything that promotes another thing.
Yeah.
If it's not a charity, we're not allowed to have it up. But that's why it would be so important for me to have that up, because even though it's not a charity, it is a disability, and it is spreading, like, it's like a mental health awareness thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, because I'm not saying it's as bad as maybe depression or anxiety. It may not be able to cause you to commit something that you may not like you may cause yourself to self-harm, or you may get suicidal thoughts, but FASD and autism can give you depression and anxiety. It may not have the properties of depression and anxiety, but you can still get it. And that's why I think it's very important. Sorry, excuse me. It's very important as a mental health awareness thing,
Yeah.
because it's not like I'm saying that, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like saying that people with FASD and autism are more sort of susceptible to depression. And that, to me, again, that is it's a very sad fact, and it means quite a lot to me that we can push that out there as well. Like, we struggle a lot more, not just because we have FASD, but because we will also get the likelihood of having anxiety or depression.
Yeah.
As I said, yeah, one of my young friends, he's very self-conscious and socially awkward, but I don't want him to get sort of the anxiety that I believe that could be there. It seems, because there's two of them, they're brothers. One of them seems a little bit more happy and a little more out there than the other. But the other one seems he seems to be more anxiety based now. And it's sad to see, but it is, I don't want to say bound to happen, but it can happen. And so I'm trying my best now to do what I can, of course. But we don't know. It's FASD is a life of mystery.
Yes, yeah, but just having you and speaking from your experience and your understanding, I'm sure is very valuable to that family, and having that input. But yeah, wow.
I like to say at the end of every if any parents have any questions, they can text my mom and my dad, because they're on the group chat, and they can ask me any questions, because I love answering questions about FASD, and I love giving my advice on what could work. Because, for example, say, I don't know, like, what's a good example for the other day? Someone's starting secondary school soon, and they're worried about leaving things, because a lot of us, we're very forgetful. We'll leave things in classes. For me, what worked was, well, for me, I didn't have any strategies, but I started to think, oh, I know when the bell is going to go now. I know I need to pack my stuff away. I need to do that. I will not leave the classroom until I have checked that everything is in my bag. And what I did was, I suggested that at home, you just get a backpack, you get all your class stuff, you sit at a table, you pretend the bell's gone, and you just practice putting everything in your bag and then leaving. It sounds like so basic, but honestly, it is, I think, something that would help in that circumstance if you're a little bit forgetful.
And that is a strategy.
That is a strategy, and it's interesting because there's also the muscle memory of that. You do start to remember that you've put in your notebook, your pencil case, your water bottle, your textbook.
Exactly.
And even if you're not going through the list in your head as a water bottle, textbook, notebook, you're picking those same 4 things up, taking them out, putting them back in, and over and over again. So
yeah,
that's definitely something worth practicing.
Yeah, it's good because, as I said, I have all these experiences from like school and from work, and I now know what works for me and what doesn't work for me, so I can give my opinions.
Yeah,
And if yeah, exactly. If anyone is willing to try it out, then that's great. That's all I'm really looking for. Just
exactly.
chance to try something. Exactly. Like, you never know.
Yeah. Now, Claire, I know Claire would have said about 5 times now, we'll have you back again for another conversation, because there's more to talk about for sure. But one thing that I asked the girls when we spoke to Georgia and Bailey, one thing that I want to ask you, and I'm going to put you on the spot again.
Okay.
There's no wrong answers, but just to finish on a really positive, like, it's been very positive conversation anyway, and lots of ups to the stories that you've shared, and lots of downs, but lots of positive
mainly
endings.
Ups. I would say, for me in my life, it's been a lot more ups than it has downs, and I don't like to admit that, because I like to think, oh no, I've had a terrible life. I like to keep myself very level-headed. I don't get optimistic, but if I think about it, I have had a lot more ups than I have downs, and it's nice.
You've kind of answered my question.
I'm so sorry.
No, that was perfect. I'm gonna ask it anyway, because we need to frame this really, like,
Well, go on.
What is one of your biggest achievements that you're most proud of?
I would say finishing school, and not just like finishing my year 11. I would say year 11, getting my GCSEs, because I didn't even think I would get half of those, and then going on to do A level and passing them as well. So I would say the entirety of school has been my greatest achievement so far in my life. I am still young. I am only 19, so I'm sure there will be bigger achievements in my life. I think if I'm back here and I'm married in 3-4 years time, maybe 5, that would be the greatest achievement of my life, living that far to get married. But for now, I would say school.
School. And you have dreams of getting married as well. Gosh, we've gone right into the future there as well.
I'm a little romantic at heart.
We definitely need to we're going to have to offer updates about this. Like, honestly,
no
if Claire was
problem.
here, we'd have like a 5-minute monthly check-in with Jacob. Like, has he booked his trip to South Africa? Has he chosen a ring? Like,
Wow. Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to whenever, if you just want to give me like a text or shoot me an email to just give you an update on what's going on in my life, I'd be more than happy to. It would
I'm
be great.
sure we'll be having another conversation with you, because you know, you have so much to share and so much positivity, and it's really inspirational now to see like how happy and relaxed you are, and how easy it is for you to talk about like what you've what you've achieved, what you've been through.
Yeah, I would definitely say, and of course, as I live on, there will be more things that I'll be able to talk
Exactly.
about. So I would say it only goes up from here.
Absolutely. What an ending. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for having this conversation.
Of course.
And
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Jessica.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Of course.